And we're glad that you could be here with us today and tell us about your journey with brain injury. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to start off, who here is all survivors? I'd like to see who my brothers and sisters are. So. Hi, I'm John Mills. I'm a race car driver. I started racing when I was 16 years old. I'm 49 now. I've had many pole positions, many wins, and have held lap records at Grattan, Michigan, and Mid-Ohio in 2 different classes. Through the years, I've been through a lot. Crashes, fires, carbon monoxide poisoning, and heat exhaustion. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened on June 1st of 2008. I crashed and I suffered a traumatic brain injury. It was and still is the single most important event in my life. You can't really tell that I've had a brain injury now. But if you knew me before, you know that I'm different. You see, a brain injury changes who you are. Many of you may not understand that, because the only way to really understand it is to live through it. Be glad if you don't understand it. Let me give you a little history of my life. I grew up riding dirt bikes. They were my first true love. We had 15 acres of motorcycle trails behind the house. I would come home from school, jump on my motorcycle, and I would ride around the track as fast as I could for hours. You see, going fast is something I've done my whole life. When I was 16, I started to compete in SCCA Autocross Solo 2 competition. This is where they set up pylons in a parking lot and you race your car through the course as fast as you can. If you hit a pylon, you get a 2-second penalty. There's only one car on the course at a time, and there are not many things to hit. It's a very safe and neat way to enjoy motorsports. I started road racing in 1989. Road racing is not done on public roads. It describes a type of racing. It's not circle track racing. It's not drag racing. It's like Grand Prix racing, twists and turns and ups and downs. You usually have about 40 cars on the track with you. It is wheel-to-wheel racing, and it is very exciting. You have to have finesse, and sometimes you crash. Yes, that's part of the game. In 2007, I designed and built my own car from the ground up. It was going to be a more serious effort towards the national championship race at the end of the season. The car has a fiberglass body that sits over a tube frame chassis that makes it look like a Mazda Miata, but underneath it's all this pure race car. The very first time I put this car on the track was at Nelson Ledges over by Cleveland. Past 2-time national champion Michael Seifert was there. He lived a few miles from that track and basically owned the lap record. I've admired Mike's driving talent since I started racing. Mike lowered his own lap record that day. I was within 2 seconds of that record. This was amazing to many people, including myself. You don't normally go that fast the first day out with a brand new car, especially one you designed and built yourself. I finished second in both races that weekend, behind Seifert, but ahead of others that I normally didn't beat. The third race was at Mid-Ohio the next weekend. For that race, I qualified third. I remember nothing of the actual day of the race or the 7 days that followed it. I've talked to Milton Grant. He is driving the second place car that I was attempting to pass when I spun and crashed. He told me that I went by him in the braking zone, but I was carrying too much speed for the corner. The rear end of my car came out, and I know how I drive, and I tend to try to just drive through the slide. Evidently, that was a bad idea. I spun the car, spun on the grass, and hit a concrete wall with the driver's side of the car. It was a pancake type hit, a very hard hit. Concrete walls don't give when you hit them, especially when they're buried in the side of the hill, as this one was. And tube frame cars aren't designed to crush and absorb energy. So this resulted in all the force being transmitted directly to the driver. I bent my seat over, I bent the steering column. I had underestimated how far my seat belts would stretch during an impact. My left rear of my helmet struck a bar on my roll cage. So right here's where my head hit. Pass this around. This is where my head hit. It actually dented the roll bar. But my left rear hit a bar, and my brain bounced back and forth inside of my skull, damaging the left frontal lobe and the left cerebellum. Soon after the impact, I was unconscious and I had quit breathing. And then there was an angel. Well, actually an off-duty court worker. She happened to be right at the corner. She was walking by that corner and she saved my life. Her name is Rhonda Knapp. She saw the crash, saw that I wasn't moving, and jumped over the fence. She held my head in an upright position against the seat back, and I started to breathe again. She stayed in that position until the medical team arrived. God had put her there for a reason. I owe Rhonda my life, but most of all, I owe God my life. I was in 3 different hospitals during that first week. They say I was awake and talking those days, but I don't remember any of it. When I started to become aware was on June 8th. This was 7 days after my accident. I really didn't understand what had happened to me. I understood that I had wrecked my car and that I was in the hospital, but I couldn't see anything wrong with me. The only marks I could see on my body were from the IVs. I remember telling my friend Dan that he had to get me out of here. We needed to go work on the car for the Grattan race in 2 weeks. Grattan was my favorite track, and I wasn't going to miss that one. I felt fine, but I wasn't fine. I was completely living in the moment, and I had absolutely no worries. Believe it or not, 3.5 weeks I spent in the hospital were some of the most relaxing days of my life. I wish now that I could be free of worry like that again. The more I recover, the more that feeling of living in the moment diminishes. I strive for that feeling again. There is peace there. My TBI has made me very accepting of life and has brought me closer to God. I'm not afraid of death anymore. I've made positive changes in my life and will now accept death when it comes to me. Brain injuries are a mystery, and every one of them is different. One thing I noticed right away in the hospital was how strong my sense of smell was now. This is something that has continued to this day. The opposite was true for my taste in food. Everything was flat and had no flavor. Luckily, that is something that has gotten better over time, or maybe I've just gotten used to it. There's no way to tell. My hospital memories are very vague, but I do remember them teaching me how to read a wall clock. Now, tie my shoelaces. I remember feeling embarrassment that I didn't know how to do those things. I was uncoordinated and I had trouble walking. I've been told that after my accident I would drag my foot. Once I remember I was getting out of the shower and I was trying to dry off. And I lifted up one leg and I fell over. And I just sat there for a minute. I couldn't believe that I just did it. In my mind, I thought I was fine, but I wasn't fine. I work as a service manager at a Mazda dealership. The service manager is a face-to-face, customer service-based position. At times it can be very rewarding. At times it can be very stressful. A stressful environment is not necessarily a good thing for someone with the TBI, although I do believe that we need some stress in our life to improve. Overloading my brain, stress, and memory issues have been my biggest challenges at work. Over time, I have improved what I could improve and have found ways to work around what I couldn't. I've been able to gauge my recovery on how well I can handle stressful situations at work. I've been humbled by my actions at work, and I have been proud of my actions at work. The main thing to take from each and every one of these experiences is to learn from them. I've fought my emotions many days. At times I still do. We all do. My speech has improved a lot, but I do still tend to speak softly and slur my words at times. Speaking is something I have to think about now to make it sound good. I need good sleep. I can notice a difference in my temperament and in my speech when I don't sleep well. I'm curious, who here has read Dr. Jill Taylor's book, My Stroke of Insight? I read this book and it helped me understand who I was. It helped me understand that I wasn't alone. I recommend it. There's a lot in common with stroke and TBI. I'm not in denial. I know that my TBI has affected me in many ways, but I refuse to let my TBI get the best of me. If something is difficult for me to do, I do it. Why? Because it helps me. If I keep doing it, I will continue to improve, and I will find ways to deal with my shortcomings. I have been receiving acupuncture treatments and have had a lot of success with them. The doctor can take energy readings from your left and right meridians. These are graphed on the computer and you can actually see the results. At first, my energy levels were split from left to right. This would coincide. My right side was depressed. This would coincide with my left side head injury. These graphs can be seen on my TBI website. I strongly recommend this technique. The feeling of improvement is not immediate. It would take a week or two, and then all of a sudden I would realize that, hey, I think I feel better. On Friday nights, my wife and I would go out to eat. Sometimes on the way home, I would break down and I'd cry. Once I broke down in a restaurant. Because of my frontal lobe injury, I had become emotional. Traumatic events can stress a relationship. My marriage of 18 years did not survive. After my divorce, I was at a dance club one night. After 18 years of marriage, this was kind of like a new thing to me. I was talking with a beautiful girl. We were sitting at a table and had actually hit it off pretty well. It turned out that she is a nurse at the local hospital. In the early stages of my injury, I felt the need to tell everyone that I met that I had a brain injury. Since she is a nurse, I thought this might provide some common ground. She politely got up and left. She never even gave me a chance. I moved on that night, but they had a devastating effect on me. It was then I realized the battle that I would face with the stigma of brain injury. I used this to fuel and motivate my recovery. I made it a goal to prove those who thought that way about TBI survivors wrong. 6 months after my accident, I experienced depression. The next few years were a time of great soul searching for me. I remember my mom telling me, God didn't let you survive your accident to live the rest of your life in depression. One day I found a quote by Charles Swindoll on the inside of my brother's kitchen cabinet door. It stopped me in my tracks. I knew that that was how I wanted to feel, but I didn't feel that way. I took a picture of it with my phone and typed it out on the computer that night. I made copies of it and put one under my computer at work, one in my toolbox, and one at home. I would read that quote over and over again. I'd read it when I was uptight, I'd read it when I was worried, and I would read it when I was emotional. I would read it over and over again, and then I'd read it again. I did this for about 2 years. And then suddenly I realized that that was how I was starting to feel. I'm going to share it with you now. If any of you would like it, I have copies of it. I don't know if it'll change your life, but it'll change mine. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. Only thing we can do is play the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. It was a long, hard road, but God had brought me out of depression. It was during this time that I learned to walk in faith and not in sight. I had always considered myself a Christian, but it wasn't until afterwards that I truly understood that Jesus took the punishment and died for my sins. My brain injury allowed me to accept Jesus Christ as my Savior. Even though I had overcome depression, I was still easily upset. I found that usually this was something I brought on myself by thinking negative thoughts. I wondered if that were true, what would happen if I thought good thoughts all the time? I found that these positive thoughts and a positive attitude will radiate from us. This is good for you and is good for those around you. Think positive and be grateful for what you have, and who knows what tomorrow will bring. Think negative and wish you had more, and it doesn't matter what tomorrow brings, because you've already lost. I had discovered the power of attraction, and I had discovered it all by myself. Personally, I was overwhelmed with the fact that I wanted to change my life. I realized how close I had come to dying. I felt that I needed to do something with my life before I go. Life was a totally new thing to me. It was water, and I was the sponge. I absorbed everything around me. I paid attention to how people acted and how they treated each other. I observed how people carried themselves and how they presented themselves. If they seemed to have a purpose in life, I took notice. A purpose is what I desired in my life. I was made aware of the impression that someone could make just by the way they presented themselves and how they spoke. They say that brain injuries are invisible. Why not use that to our advantage? After my accident, I examined my life very closely. I reassessed who I was in a sense. This was done with guidance from a close friend that understood what I was going through. It scares me to think where I could have ended up if I had to go through that period of time alone. Surrounding yourself with people that are good to you and people that are good for you is vital. I quit watching TV in 2009. TV took up valuable time that I could be spending helping others or helping myself. I find I can be happy and I don't have to have all those material things. When your life is focused on attaining personal possessions, you miss out on what really matters. What really matters are the relationships you build with your friends and family. Friends and family are the glue that hold our lives together. I have a doctor friend from Toledo that races with me. His name is Dr. Bernardo Martinez. He was going to be here today, but he got called into surgery. So. He is a vascular surgeon and has been a great help to me. Early on, he explained the benefits of increasing blood flow to the brain to help it heal. He also advised me on the benefits of exercise to help with my balance. I took his word as gospel. I work out 3 times a week now. When I started to work out, just walking on a treadmill was difficult, and I couldn't stand up and pedal a stationary bike. Then I slowly built up to the point where I could run on a treadmill and on the stationary bike. Besides lifting weights, I take step classes, Zumba classes, turbo kick classes, and yoga. These classes have been very key in my recovery. I have found the step classes especially beneficial because you would have to listen to the instructor and make your legs do what she says. So you have to be aware of what she's saying. It's like a brain exercise. And then you have to move your leg, and then you have to balance. And it's all good stuff for a TBI survivor. I like weightlifting because within a few months I can see the results of my efforts. With my brain, I work hard, but the results come so slow, you don't enjoy seeing the results. Jumping rope is an excellent choice. I tried to jump rope often also. I bought a Bosu ball and I would work on my balance every day. The dance classes are a big help too. I was a good dancer before my accident, but afterwards I was very mechanical and jerky. Over time, my dancing became more fluid. I knew that when I could start to flow with the music again, I'd be able to flow while driving a race car again. Yes, there is a link between racing cars and dancing. They both require fluid movement. Without a doubt, the single most influential thing I've found has helped me since my accident is a positive attitude. I've found that a positive attitude is vital to one's recovery. I'd go as far to say it is most important of all. If you take anything from me today, please take that. Your attitude will make or break you in everything you do in life. A positive attitude can be had by anyone. There is no charge for it. There are no prerequisites for it. Anyone can attain it, and it's vital for a quality life. This is not an impossible challenge for you. It was hard for me, but I was able to do it. Setting a goal for yourself is one of the keys. A goal keeps you focused and pulls you towards it. The goal I had chosen for myself was to return to competitive racing. At the beginning of 2011, I got word that I had accomplished that goal. Neurologists had approved my test results, and I got my SCCA national competition license back. It felt good knowing that I had done it, but I never had a doubt in my mind that I would. My very first weekend back at the track, I set a personal best lap time at Grattan, Michigan. It was the fastest I had ever gone there. Felt just like old times when I was in the car. I was back and it felt great. The following race was at Mid-Ohio. Mid-Ohio was the track where I had crashed at. I didn't have any funny feelings because I remembered nothing of my accident. I ran decent, but I ended up getting together with the Camaro and took the right front corner off the car. That's how racing goes. One day you're a hero, the next day you're a zero. We fixed the car and moved on. All in all, I've been happy with my results. I've had some challenges, but those were to be expected. I've also went fast and won some races. I expected that too. I had accomplished my goal of returning to racing, but I had lost some of the commitment that I had before. After realizing this fact, it became apparent to me that I needed to set another goal in my life. This confirms in my mind how vitally important it is that we have a goal, and that whether or not we reach that goal is of little consequence. Having that one goal made me focus my life on my recovery, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Having that one goal made me who I am today. Who I am today is not the result of me reaching that goal. It is the result of me learning from the good times and the bad times as I was reaching for it. It is also the result of trusting God with my life and knowing that He has a plan and a purpose for me that is bigger than racing. What is my next goal, you ask? Well, I started a company that promotes brain injury awareness, motivation, and inspiration through my racing and public speaking. Racer Parts Wholesale in Indianapolis believes in me enough that they helped me out with this suit. By the way, this is the suit I was wearing when I crashed. You can see they cut that one off of me. This suit is one that Mazda gave me when I got my license back, because I didn't have any money. So they helped me out. And Racer Parts Wholesale in Indianapolis believes in what my goal is. As you can see, this suit's clean. And that means it hasn't been used yet.
Yeah.
Which makes it pretty, but I'd rather have it be dirty.
Is it fireproof?
Yeah. My goal now is to compete in the SCCA Trans Am Series. The Trans Am Series is a professional road racing series that races throughout the United States and Canada. Many of its races are televised. Yes, the Trans Am officials have already approved my competition license. Before each event, I will speak to groups of TBI survivors in the area that we race in. I will invite them to the track to be my guests. I will motivate them and I will inspire them, and I will share with them the drama that is professional Trans Am racing. I would like to focus on the racing part of my goal, but I'm starting to think that God wants me to focus more on reaching out to survivors. I will continue to do both as I wait for further instruction. A brain injury viciously steals your self-confidence. Without self-confidence, we often don't set goals. Setting goals is key for our recovery. My TBI forced me to learn how to attract good into my life. It put me through difficult times, personally and financially. It also taught me how to appreciate those difficult times, because they are when we grow. They are when we get better. They are when we heal. What is your life about? What goals have you set? Traumatic brain injury is not the end of your life. Sometimes it can be the beginning. Thank you. God bless. You guys have questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
How did you get the guts to get your license again?
To get it again?
Yeah, well, you had to get requalified, right? Certified?
Yeah. Well, my requirements, I had raced for many years, so those requirements were met. But I had to go back and have a neurologist check me. And the first year I went back in 2010. And like the first year, I didn't want to, I knew I wasn't ready. And then 2000 crewing for people, and I realized I really wanted to be out there again. And that's when I really started trying to get out. And then when I went back, the neurologist would have me, I remember he had me stand on one foot and then had me close one eye. And as soon as I closed my eyes, that supporting leg would just start shaking. And he didn't give me approved me because my balance was off. And then that's when I started working on my balance every day. And I would religiously, every day, I would work on it. And I'd stand on one foot. And it's kind of stupid. My doctor tells me because I'd always do it in the shower. And he said, that's not where you want it. That's where I did it. But I'd stand on one leg and I'd close my eyes. And I'd start counting. And, and over, I mean, of course you don't see results fast. Over a couple of months, I started getting higher and then higher and higher. And then I bought that Bosu ball and I'd work on
What is that ball again?
The Bosu, it's like a half moon type ball. And you stand on it. And you can
Stand
work
on
it. Yeah.
They're short, they're
You
about
got
8
your
inches
helmet on
tall.
when you do
Yeah.
Now, when you were in the shower, did you wax the floor down to make it so it's extra slick, so you kind of you would force yourself to not fall as much, so you get it better, or did you just kind of gradually?
I just gradually got better.
Okay. Well, okay.
But
I wouldn't suggest that though.
the balance issues were a big part of it, and just when I got back out on track, I've talked to, as you can probably guess, brain injuries are fairly common in race car drivers. There's a couple right here, and I know these guys are brain damaged. So.
Yeah, we get to wear that badge proud.
But typically after injury, I don't think that people admit it. If it's more of a minor concussion type injury, they may be confused and they may have balance issues. I think a lot of times people don't admit it. Some of this is like when I was speaking to the girl that got up and walked away from me. This stigma of a brain injury is huge, and I think that has people not wanting to admit to it, and just I can see in the last 10 years, we have brought so much awareness of brain injury into the public eye now, and people are starting to realize that a concussion is a brain injury, and it's just getting through that, I guess.
How hard was it go driving?
Actually, I didn't have any issues in the car. A friend of mine actually let me, as 2009, so that was a year after my accident, he let me do a test day at Nelson Ledges, Ken Alderson,
Yep.
in his F-Prod car. And I hadn't been in any race car since my accident, and he let me take his car out at Nelson Ledges, and if I went out in it now, I'd probably be a little more tentative, but I was just going.
Did you get it fixed then?
After that? Yeah. But actually, I had the car slide in and loose a couple times, and luckily I was able to recover it, and there's another professional driver that had a lot more severe TBI, Sterling Moss, and when he came back, he would get the car loose, and he said he'd have to think about how to catch it. And he knew at that point that he couldn't really race again. And that's what I wanted to see. So I was going out and I had the car loose and I caught it, and I had somebody else's car and I didn't think anything about it. So, luckily I caught it. So.
You mentioned the doctor that's a race car driver.
Yes.
How did you find him and the support group that you developed?
Actually, Bernie Martinez is a doctor that I've known since I was 16 years old because of his love for cars. When I started doing solo too, that like running the cars through the pylons. He was in the club then, and he was my instructor, and so he had known me for a long time. And I was in the Mansfield Hospital, and then they life flighted me up to Toledo, and he heard there's a driver coming in, so he came down. Naturally came down to see who it was, and here it was me. So, and then Bernie has been a huge help to me. He called me at 8:30 this morning and was upset that he couldn't make it. I said, I mean, he's a surgeon. It's like when they say you gotta go, you gotta go. But he's a huge help to me. He took me in kind of under his wing, and I'd go up to his office after hours, and we just talked. Because I really, I had balance issues. I had some muscular issues, but nothing real physical. But I had huge amounts of personal and emotional damage, and I think any survivor does. You can't describe to somebody what a brain injury does, because there's no way to describe it. When you have everything in your life change, including what you think about yourself, and everything's different. For years I'd feel uneasy, and I'd always wait for that time. Well, I hope I can relax tonight. I could never relax, and that feeling actually went for about 2 years, where I could just never relax because I felt funny. And there again, I don't know if I've just become accustomed to it. I would imagine that's what it is. And, with the time that passes, the more time that goes by, the more I'm able to recover. I mean, I know there's things different about me, but, you can't be upset about them because you can't change them.
Could you follow your improvement with CAT scans or brain scans, or is there something in the?
We did initially,
that show?
we did MRIs, and I'd have a spot right up here that would show up, and the concussed, like the damaged area, the actual spot where the damage is won't ever get better, okay? But the damaged area around it, okay, is able to heal, and that's what would shrink. So like in the MRIs, I had like 3 MRIs probably in the first year and a half, and they just watched that, and they could see that it was getting better. And that's the area that heals. And same with the stroke, where as time passes, the brain is able to reconnect, and it can connect different pieces. Yeah, and that damage, the spot that's dead, is always going to be dead, but it's able to connect around it. And that's what you work on. So, and there's no way to really hurry it. It's just time, and it's got to go by.
What do you think acupuncture does for you?
The acupuncture is interesting. What I liked about it is that I could look at it, because it's actually, you hold a little thing, and he takes their magnetic readings, but you can actually graph it. And you can see, my left side is like this and my right side is down here, And he said, well, that's because you whacked this side of the head, And you can see it, and then, like, we do it once a month, and I go back, and then just over time, you can see it, start to level out more. And like I say, it's not something that where you leave the doctor's office and you feel better. It's like a week or 2 later, it's so subtle. It's like, the best way I could describe it was more balanced. Just all of a sudden it's like, and you're not really sure, but it's like, I think I might feel a little better, And then you go back and you graph it again, and you're more, they are more equal. So it's interesting.
Who does that?
The one I was using is Rick Mara in Finley, Blanchard Valley chiropractor. He's a good guy.
There are some local, I have that information too.
And on I have two different websites. I have a racing website, and then I have a TBI website that we just got back up about a month or so ago. And the TBI site, I have a lot of information for it. A lot of it's on there right now, but there's a lot more that I want to put on that I haven't yet. But it's just johnmillsracing.com and then johnmillstbi.com. And then that card's up here too if you want to have, has the website address on it.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you telling your story. I've been trying to find my boys for 30 years. I was in a car accident. I was a passenger, and the driver was a friend of mine, and he was killed instantly. It was one car accident in Pennsylvania. Anyways, I don't want to get into my whole story, but I just basically want to say that I really appreciate everything you've said, and that putting on that outfit you've done so well, your balance. You're encouraging and inspiring. Thank you. I'm Denise. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Nat?
John, I've known John for several years. He's a great guy. I never knew John before his TBI. I met him going to the shop basically, and their shop fixing my car. He was always pleasant, smiling, always such a very great guy. And then he happened to come up and speak to me one day, and he's just such a gentle spirit, and I just feel very blessed to know him as he is now. I think it was a true blessing that, you know, God works in great ways, and I think John perhaps is a better person than he was even prior to the TBI. I'm an RN, and I've been around many trauma victims, and one of the most critical points that he stated to me in this story that nobody else may get is the very fact that he could, after this traumatic experience, take a step class and coordinate the mind and body thing. That's just a phenomenal story in and of itself, with patients that number one have had concussions, patients that have had permanent damage, like he has had with this frontal lobe, and that takes a lot of built up, a whole bunch of motivation and determination. When he went back and said, I practiced on my balance every single day, and to be able to get on a step, you know, some people that don't have any TBIs can't do a step class to try to coordinate what the person is saying versus and doing what that is. That's tremendous, and I believe your story is amazing, John. This is the first time I've actually heard him speak. I'm so proud of him.
Thank you.
And
I did fall down a few times in step class. That's why I knew it was good for me.
Hey, John, when you're doing your stuff, did you put how many risers did you put inside?
I'd just do one initially, and then I think we'd build up and did 2 or maybe 3. So.
Okay. All right, okay, just checking. In my recovery, I did the same thing too.
Yeah.
But
I could tell that the step class was probably the most beneficial to me, just because it's not just the physical exercise and the balance. There's a cognitive issue there too, because you had to listen to the instructor and you had to follow. And those were all different, so you're working 3 different areas at the same time.
During the stuff, did they introduce, let's say, even weights with that, like doing weights?
We never did.
Okay. All right.
And let's not minimize the positiveness, the attitude, that whole thing. That's a big piece of it.
Well, that was something I had to find out myself, and that came about going through depression.
That discovery,
There
I think,
is-
is very important for all of us.
There is a lot of times that I was, like I say, when I was in depression, I was pretty bad. I had some bad thoughts. Actually, that's one of the reasons I began speaking to other people, is because I actually had thoughts, you know, I don't think I ever would have followed through with them, but I had thoughts, you know, with if I was gonna hurt myself, how would I? And that scared me. It scared me a lot. Mm-hmm.
I have frontal lobe damage as well, and I can really relate to what you're saying. And there's a difference between not wanting to be here and wanting to die. And
Exactly.
you have to work through it and be positive and everything. You should be really proud.
And thank you.
I'm just reveling in the step class. Because what you're talking about, I'm almost 5 years out, and you're talking about it, and I'm still on listening to the instructor tell me what to do, and then it would be like insane for me.
Obviously, every brain injury is different.
Yeah.
We're all starting at different points. But it doesn't matter where you're starting at. You can improve it.
Always, every
You
day.
can always improve it.
My
And
improvement's
that's like the
exponential.
doctors in the hospital were telling me, well, I had one of the nurses told me, you'll be back to normal in a year. And, I was waiting, and then a year would go by, and it's like, I still don't feel good. And then, maybe next month I'll feel good. Maybe next month, maybe 6 months I'll feel good. And you're just like 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, and I'm still, when I was feeling that uneasiness, where I couldn't relax, that was a good 3 years. And it's funny, but all the time where I linked my positive thinking and accepting who I was and like reading that paragraph and the calmness, all that like came together at the same time. I don't know if it's just time or what, but it did. It all came together. So, and I know I'm different. My friends know I'm different. Because a lot of my friends aren't my friends anymore.
I just wanted to ask, would you tell us what kind of treatments you got and which one, like speech, OTPT, which one you got and which one you felt?
And then initially, like through in the third week in the hospital, they started giving me some physical, and then I got released and went home, and then I'd have all three: the physical, the speech, and the occupational. And so I'd have all three of those, and I enjoyed the physical because I felt like I was doing something. The speech and the occupational would make me feel stupid. Because it's like, that's where they're like, I remember they said, well, draw a picture of a clock. And I was like, drew a circle and I put 24 numbers on it because that made sense to me. That's wrong, And I didn't like the occupational because it made me feel dumb.
And for how long you been in those services? For how long?
In those services after my accident, I probably did, like I said, I was in the hospital about a month, and then I can't really remember, probably a month of those services afterwards, 3 weeks or a month. And then, but that's also when I was talking with Dr. Martinez, and I joined up with the fitness club, and that's when I started doing those. So even after my rehabilitation, the doctor said I was okay, I continued with my classes, into classes and all that stuff. And that's actually, when the doctor said I was okay, I was messed up still,
So he said you're okay, so it was your inner strength that knew you weren't okay and you needed more.
Yeah.
It was you that.
Because I knew, my speech problems, I could hear it in my voice. I can still, I don't like the way my voice sounds now, because I hear myself slur every once in a while. But obviously I'm a lot better than I was. But, I could hear that in my voice. I could, I'd be trying to get on a treadmill, and just walking on a treadmill is hard. And it's like, I'm having trouble. And it's like, something's not right, But I was able to do that, and my instructor there, I had a great bunch of people that I worked out with. A lot were older, and they just made me feel good because obviously I wasn't the most coordinated guy in the room because I literally was falling down and stuff at times, But just over time, I kept doing it, and it was fun, I made it fun, so. Instead of being embarrassed by falling down, I could laugh about it.
We have to become our own self-advocates.
Yeah.
And we create our own therapy programs. Therapy is limited to the type of insurance you have. Some people get 6 visits, some people get a month's worth of visits, and some people don't get any visits depending on what kind of insurance they have.
Well, too, with frontal lobe damage and the emotional component of it, it's a really good deal. If people don't understand, you look at the same sentence and you're not the same.
Yeah. And it's like even when I started doing this, you can probably tell as I was talking, there's a few parts of it that I get choked up in. And I was talking to somebody afterwards, and I was saying, man, I wish I could get through that without getting choked up. And he's like, said, no, that's what makes it real,
Yep.
It's like,
That's how we live every day.
yeah.
That's how we live every day.
Exactly. And just like when I was reading this last night, at home, and there's parts of it I'll get choked up at home, and ones that I didn't get choked up here, but it just brings back memories, That's like the girl walking away from me, and in the club, that was a big one. And, and it doesn't seem like much, and it may not be much, but in my mind it was,
It can be a lot.
Yeah.
It can be a lot.
And obviously, that was years ago, and obviously it still affects me, so. Any others?
What term was that?
In Mid-Ohio, as actually in Nessus. I came off the straight, dove in on Grant's Toyota, and spun, went through the right-hander off the straight, turn 7 or whatever they call it now, 5, and just spun 180. And believe it or not, I've been racing a long time, and I don't know if I was good or lucky, but I had really never spun and crashed much. So when I spun, I was just obviously probably on the gas, and I didn't jump on the brakes. And when I got to the grass, and I just went right in. And that's before, now Mid-Ohio has a tire wall there.
Yeah.
So that was my doings.
See, you initiated change without even trying.
Yeah, so.
John?
Yeah, I don't watch car racing much, or already.
Yeah.
But do you race against the pros, Earnhardt?
Not the NASCAR guys. I race club racing, which some of the pros like Paul Newman actually race what I race. The actor Paul Newman and Tom Cruise would race. There's a few of them, like Paul Newman got Cruise into it. Cruise actually raced in my class in GT3. So there's big names there, but they're kind of big names in racing more, like John Heinrich and which isn't a name any of you would know, but he's a big Corvette guy and goes all over the world. He's a GM engineer and he's big in racing. Morris said, and a lot of guys that have moved, Ron Fellows, they've moved up into NASCAR and things like that. Now in Trans Am, the series that I'm going to get into, there's a lot more professional racers there. That's where you get into some bigger names, Andretti's and things like that. So,
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Any other comments or anything?
What do all the logos mean?
These are all, well, Trans Am is the series that I want to run in. SCCA is the sanctioning body that does that for them. Hoosiers, the tires we run on, BP's the fuel we run on, and then Ranger Parts Wholesale's the company out in Indianapolis that gave it to me. And then I even put my Mills Racing and John Mills TBI on the back, so.
Very nice.
So, but I honestly, I believe in my goal, and I think it's a great idea of, like, say I'm racing at Road Atlanta, to go down to Atlanta and speak to survivors down there and invite them to the track. And just, you know, I can even be running mid-pack, but just for them to see another survivor out there racing gives them hope.
Yep, we did it. Yep, you got up
Yeah,
and you went forward and it can be done.
That's what I want to do. And, you know, I want to share that with them.
You can do it.
Because the confidence is the biggest thing I had to overcome. I mean, and you can't describe what a TBI does to your self-confidence. I mean, it
Turns us into toddlers.
It does.
Turns us into toddlers.
And, you know, there's a time where you shouldn't be self-confident because you do have issues, you know. But then after a couple of years, you need to start rebuilding that self-confidence. Because I've seen a lot. It's funny, but like when I go to like a TBI group meeting, I always surround myself with people that I want to be like, you know, like, I mean, obviously like doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. I mean, smart people is who I strive to be with. And that, or being around those people will rub off on me. But I can go to, you know, even like when I go to a support group meeting, I'll go in and just talking with everybody, I'll notice I'll start to slur my speech, okay? And it's just, I'm just picking up. I can look into someone's eyes and I can see that they're a survivor. I can see it in their eyes.
I don't know how to say this, but like the elephant in the room, to come out or not to come out, that's the issue I've been having. And I don't know if it's something, like when you go to wherever you said you're gonna talk to the survivors, I just had a thought like, you know, praise them for showing up and admitting that they.
Yeah, and I've seen that before. Like I was in Columbus here earlier, and there's a girl there that showed up, and it was her first meeting she had been to, and she was crying, you know, as I was telling my story. And afterwards, like, came up and hugged her, because, you know, and it's a big step.
Jobs, I mean, you got that, how'd you get that job? I mean, we don't have time to go through that whole ordeal.
My actual job?
Yeah.
My actual job I've actually had for 21 years, so I had that job before my injury. And luckily, I have a very understanding boss. There was, at one time, he actually called me in the office and said, this isn't working, you know. Like he was trying to fire me, but I wouldn't let him. So, but actually now, I've actually, since then, you know, it took me, I was probably bad for a year and a half, and then a couple of years I was working on it, but my performance now at my job, I focused a lot more on my job, and I'm actually making quite a bit more money than I was before my accident. And that I take pretty much, I mean, I can say, well, I need to take this town car or Corvette or whatever home, and I can take it because I'm that much of a valuable player. You know, I've worked and I've gotten myself to that point. And, you know, and that's all it is focus. And it's belief that you can do it. It's not believing that, you know, yeah, I know I'm damaged, emotional issues, But, you know, I just work that much harder on what I do have going for me. And I'm able to make it work. So.
Woo-hoo.
Thanks for coming down.